Boys, gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, baby. Guys, what we're speaking about in this video is going to be basically about how in the last 2 trading days, pretty much lost $2,000, okay? 2%. And when I really think about it, this is one of those things that really kept me unprofitable for so much longer than it should have. Because I would have these pretty much spurts or like these moments of consistency, you know, whether like that was a good week or so or a couple of weeks, but then I'd always be like hit in the face when I would run into exactly what I'm going to speak about today, and then that would ultimately drag me down into just like crazy losses and just spiral and all these things. And so what is it, bro? What is it? Basically, guys, what it is not being able to identify when to be involved in the markets and when not to be involved, when market conditions are optimal and when they're not optimal. You know, identifying clear bull or bearish markets and consolidating markets, choppy price action from clean price action, basically the ability to not take a trade. And so with this week, if you guys are actively involved in the markets, you guys know that pretty much on all forex pairs, last week we had news, basically a lot of imbalance and like retracements happening and just super choppy price action now coming into this week because of the news at the end of last week. And so literally just things haven't been clean, and I've still taken 2 positions, right? Honestly, mistake day after day. And so I think I'm done pretty much trading for the rest of this week. If something lines up, of course I will take it, but I'm still probably going to lower my risk just because the market conditions aren't optimal, bro. Super fucking choppy, super just not clean, no trending markets, everything is sideways. And relating this back to like your ability not being able to take a trade, and like the moments in my trading journey where, you know, I'd be good for weeks on end, and then just like 1 week would happen, bro, where I'm forcing setups, where I'm taking a trade, losing, then going back into the market to hunt that shit, to get my fucking money back, you know, to always just feel like I'm moving forward. Because I think the biggest problem that a lot of you have, or the biggest problem you have right now, bro, is the fact that you think because you're trading, you're progressing, right? Because you've been taught for so long that like the more work you put in, the more you're gonna get out, right? And that's true. But the problem is, just because you're taking a trade, that doesn't mean you're moving forward, bro. You taking bad trades, you losing money. This is why I would say trading is like one of those very few things in this entire world where you could actually show up and leave worse than you came in, right? Because you can come into the market, like imagine showing up to work and then they take money out of your pocket for showing up, and you're there all day working your ass off, right? And so that's why a lot of this stuff is just, you have to change the way you've been taught to think for a very long time. And exactly in that, where like you have to teach yourself this, okay? No trade sometimes is better, like not even sometimes, no trade is better than taking a bad trade, bro. And it's also in your ability to identify when you're taking a good loss and when you're taking a bad loss, okay? Good loss being you followed your plan, you know, things lined up for you, market conditions are nice, and then compared to a bad loss where you're going against your plan. You know, market conditions are not clean and you're just trading to trade because you want to be so involved. I always say this, dude. Try going this whole week, especially if you're in the forex markets, bro. Try going this whole week without taking a trade, just for fun. See that itch start to come out of you where you realize you have a trading addiction. And that's exactly the problem I had for so long, is I had a trading addiction. And because I was so focused on just wanting to trade, be involved in the markets, that's exactly what led to my downfall. And again, this really has nothing to do with the technicals, bro. This is psychology. And this is why I always say psychology is a majority of what you're doing in your trading. Nothing to do with the technicals, right? You're not seeing me here pulling up like a screen share or like a Zoom or a Loom or something recording my charts right now, are you? Because this has nothing to do with technicals. Realistically, this has to do with your ability to just not trade. And I think this is by far one of the fucking hardest things that you're ever gonna have to get over. And then you'll eventually get to that point where, you know, like, dude, there will be some days where I just don't trade. because I'm literally too tired. I'm exhausted for the whole day. Like I trade London session, and what I've noticed is until I got to that point, bro, where I was like, I'm gonna just take off a day for fun as far as like trading goes. That doesn't mean I'm like avoiding the work or anything, but if I can just take a day off of the charts for fun because I don't need to trade today, that's when shit really started to go my way, bro. Because you also will start to realize realistically, like the less trades you take, the better. Obviously, there's multiple ways of thinking there. Not saying you got to take 5 positions a month or anything like that. You know, I definitely think that's a little too, like, not enough. But realistically thinking though, if you only see 5 setups in a month, then yes, you should only be taking 5 setups a month, right? The more precise you become, the more essentially picky with your setups that you become, the more quality you start to be involved in, the better, right? And so to be 100% honest with you guys, like, dude, these last 2 days where I took 2 losses, I could have completely just avoided by not being involved, literally not being involved. Now, technically speaking, yes, you know, I still analyze the markets, and these trades were still in line essentially with like my technical trading plan, right? Like we had a 15-minute liquidity sweep last night, a 15-minute break of structure following that right after, boom, got the entry targeting a 4-hour demand zone, huge imbalance to the downside. Like things were in line. But then, you know, you look at the price action and the after today, and price literally has not moved. It's just been choppy up and down, literally taking me out of my stop loss, boom, 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 still in the same exact position, not moving forward on NU. And that's the kind of shit that I'm talking about. These are the kind of things that you have to realize. Because again, bro, it could be, like, this is the other thing that you have to really identify for yourself is when I would take losses early on in my journey, you know, I tried to basically come back in now. Okay, like what did I do wrong? You know, why didn't this work? Do I need to change something in my technicals, or maybe I'm something more that I need to learn? You know, things along those lines. When that's not the case at all. I always say the way you're gonna get out of a losing streak, the way you need to approach this is like maybe things just didn't play out in your favor, bro, and now you come back again the next day, or continue to follow your trading plan if it's next week, whatever, and eventually you will get yourself out of that losing streak or out of that loss. Just because you took a loss, bro, doesn't mean there's something wrong with the way you're trading, right? But then again, now you have to also understand your ability to identify the market conditions, your ability to identify like, hey, why don't I just not trade today? You know, things along those lines that will heavily dictate your trading performance, man. Because I started to really realize this once I did have the shift in my trading, when I became profitable, when I had some of my first funded accounts where basically I wouldn't trade, or I would trade for a whole week. I'd take like 4 losses in the first 4 days, take like 2 big wins on the last day of the week, and then they'd completely eat up my losses for the week, and I'd still be up like 3-4%, and then be ready to withdraw. And then realistically, when you think about it, it's like, oh, you know, I could have avoided 4 losses this week if I would have just traded on that one day and been a little more picky with my setups. And, you know, I'd be up like 8% right now instead of 3 or 4, you know, or just realizing the importance of risk management. And this is still why I say, like, risk management, you guys have no idea how important that is, bro. Because with the way I trade and just understanding the math behind risk to rewards, you can literally lose. Like if you just take a series of 10 trades, okay, say the first 3 you win, and I take a minimum of a 1 to 3 risk to reward before getting into any position. Like that's the minimum that I got to make if I'm putting my own money on the table, right? 1 to 3. And so if you win the first 3 positions, that's 3, 6, 9%. Okay, risk stays consistent at 1. You make 9% in the first 3 positions. Let's say you lose the other 7, -1% on each loss. That's -7%. You're up 9, you're down 7, you're still net positive 2%. That's with a 30% win rate, right? And so either way, dude, this is why this shit's so important. Because when you start to understand the math and the way it works is, if you can just be really disciplined and really strict with your risk management in your trading, you will still come out on top, bro. And that's exactly what I was saying, where you can still be in a losing streak for who knows how long and just continue to follow your plans, bro, and your winners will fucking eat up your losses like no other. And that's how your trading should be. Your losers should stay consistent, but your losers should never be bigger than your winners. And then when you do win, they should be fucking eating up those losses. Right now, I'm never going to say that there's a certain way you need to be trading, you know, because there's many ways that you can trade. But more so what I'm getting at with this video is the way I trade, and with your trading psychology, being able to identify like when you need to be not involved in the market, when you need to truly take a step back, bro. And that is truly what helped me a lot, because, you know, the way you handle losses is kind of exactly what this video is about. Like with these last 2 days, you know, I could have gone off tilt after taking a loss and then went back into the market wanting to make my money. I could go off tilt today, like, hey, you know, I'm down 2%. I need to hit a 1-3 today to make up my money, bro. Or take a loss and then let's go back. Let's go back. Next thing you know, before the end of the night, I'm 3-4 positions deep, right? And so a lot of this stuff just comes from your ability to take it on the chin, bro. Your ability to take a loss and walk away. You know, your patience, bro. Your self-control, again, the discipline. And that's what it is at the end of the day. And so until you can get to that point, bro, where you can take a loss, leave, and then just come back level-headed, or stay level-headed, even better, that's when you're truly going to start to excel in your trading. Is when you realize that trading is a game of you, and you're literally look in the mirror, bro. The harder you want to punch yourself, just the more you're going to get hit. And until you can take a hit without wanting to punch anything, that's when, bro. So, gentlemen, hopefully you guys took something valuable from this video. As always, this is just like a huge lesson for me that I had to learn. It's just being able to know like when I don't need to get in, bro, when things aren't looking the best, you know, just literally protecting myself, protecting my trading capital. But I don't really like to think about like that way of trading, because it makes it seem like it's such a conservative thing, and I don't like a really conservative way of trading. I like to just be in the middle, you know, not too aggressive, but not too conservative. And then if anything, if I'm going to make that shift, I usually will be more aggressive, like if I'm doing an account flip or something like that, because you have to be, right? But just hopefully you guys can understand the lesson here, and the importance of knowing truly when to stay out the market, bro, and being able to stay out the market. That's it right there. So takeaway from this video: try not to trade this week. I've said it a couple times in a couple of videos because it's really important. And just see how you feel, how addicted you are to trading. And then that should be like a big shift for you in realizing, you know what, bro, this is exactly why I'm not making money, because I want to be involved so badly, bro. Go back test, bro. Go do some other shit. Go to the gym. Just do something else except for sit there and take positions, because you don't get paid to fucking sit there and take positions, bro. You could lose fucking money sitting there and just taking positions. You could blow your entire fucking account. So, gentlemen, as always, love you guys, man, and I will see you in the next one.